I really liked what I think the two of you guys on the end were building to when we said like cool is detached, but the kids today are detached even though they're on like connected with technology. And then the comment about like the older generation isn't the only one in this limbo between like cool and woke, because the kids being both detached and attached are also in some kind of limbo. I thought that was interesting.
Oh, okay. I was expecting to go last. All right. I really liked the "Let's be real" comment, because I too nerded out in the break and looked up and read the town hall essay, and I totally agree with you. But you pointed something out that I didn't realize, and I always love that when students do that at Socratic seminars. So I love that you reflected on it's really now, it's real. That's what we need to be.
I couldn't find that on the town hall thing. It was too hard to dig into, but I had my thought. It was saving up to go last.
All right, we'll swing back.
Okay.
We'll swing back.
I really appreciated the comment that was talking about the speaker or the writer of the article, that he was a middle-aged man and that he wasn't cool or woke at all. And I thought that was kind of ironic that he would be writing, this article on that.
Very good.
I like the comments about cool not really being able to be defined by anybody, but also being defined by everybody. It's just defined differently by different people, and I think that's a really cool thing. It's by generation, it's by what we're experiencing, it's by, what each generation is going through, so.
Very good.
That was my comment too. I liked how whoever said that cool isn't just a style, it's generational, and that shows how every generation sees cool differently based on the circumstances that they live around.
I know it's already been mentioned, but I also like the comment about the irony and how cool was detached, but how kids today are detached, but we don't define them as cool. So
I'll be back. I just realized by going this way, I'm setting you up for somebody to steal your comment. So there we go.
It's too late. It already happened. You know what though? Instead of saying what I was going to say because somebody did. I wonder, based on what everybody has been saying this entire time, is could he potentially be saying woke is the new cool, perhaps?
Yeah. Oh, very good.
Just wondering.
Very good. All right, we'll be back.
I liked the attention that was drawn to the line that says culture is the collective response to the core problems of the times. And I think that when we talked about, or when you guys talked about, I vicariously talked about it, the detachment and kind of that paradox, I think that you were hinting around to the fact that cool and woke are both kind of defense mechanisms based on what we're experiencing in our culture now, if culture is the collective response to the problems of our time. So I think that you kind of touched on the fact that both of these were a necessity at the time, or one is a necessity at the time.
Thank you, Joy.
I think there are two separate comments that kind of connected. When at the end they said it almost seems more of like a rhetorical question. Someone else made the comment that it really seems more of like an inviting of the audience to just ask our own selves questions, and I think it seems to be more of like just food for thought than necessarily a definite stance one way or the other.
My favorite comment was Sinead's use of the word manufactured to describe iGen. It just really, describing their lives as manufactured really reminded me of who it is that we're teaching right now.
And I know that it's already been said, but I really like the idea that detached is no longer cool because everybody is detached. And so the opposite of that is what's cool now, or woke.
I too like the comments of the definition of culture as the collective response to the core problems of the times. I'm looking up like a definition of culture. If you just look it up, it usually does not seem to be anything really close to that. Talk about art and talk about, all kinds of things, but not really a core response or a response to the core problems. And I think that is a great point. I like that definition because it couches both cool and woke in like their context and their what brings them about. And then also, and then you wonder what's going to come next. What will be the next response to the core problems in the future?
I like the comment of the connection to Gandhi. I like the idea of maybe peaceful, nonviolent, civil disobedience being sort of in between being woke and being cool.
I like the comment they made about the authenticity of Kid Rock and Trump. And the idea of let's not be woke, let's be woke and not cool, or cool and I don't know which way. Woke. I'm saying woke, aren't I? I mean woke. I'm sorry. See, I am so not cool. I
That's the
can't
next
think of
move.
the right words.
That's the new word.
It just proves my point. You can go on.
Don't let Saturday Night Live hear that.
The idea of cool differing from one generation to the next, getting redefined from one place to another. Sorry.
I liked your comment. She's sitting right in front of you. I don't know your name. Because you actually did the research. You looked at the contextual background of what he was saying, which is completely different than what it sounds. So while he goes on trying to act like he's this detached person just writing something, ooh, look what I wrote, it's actually very manufactured, manipulated, exactly how he wants it to.
All of these have already been said, but I do like how you talked about how cool started off as being detached. Now our kids are detached. I mean, I have an 11-year-old who's completely detached, so I get it. I see it every day. And also how you went, as you were just saying, and researched the article, because I was gonna, after class today, I was gonna go home and see if I could find what that was all about, that Kid Rock. So it was nice to hear that.
Bringing up the rear here, I'm just echoing a lot of comments that people already made, but one that in particular stood out to me was the connection to Gandhi and the necessity of being woke and cool synthesized. So that's my comment.
I think one of mine was the consumerism, that same comment that I was looking at before, being influenced by the influencers. And then when I looked down at the last two paragraphs, I noticed that the word collective or collectivism is in there 4 times and like 8 lines. And so I think he's definitely describing woke as the cultural, it's a collective thing and not the detached, cool thing that it was before, because we have too much media coverage now. Can't have.
And speaking of media coverage, I thought it was just really interesting, the discussion about I would much rather a real candidate, because I don't think that actually exists. I think even behind the smoke and mirrors or everything, there's some political consultant that has crafted Kid Rock's image for whatever it is. And it made me think of, did you guys see the post about the Democratic candidates' favorite comfort foods recently, and it was getting picked apart by everybody. So Elizabeth Warren's was the cool response because it was chips and guac, but then there was Cory Booker's steamed veggies. Who chooses that as a comfort food? And so people were picking apart these, and then Gillibrand's was whiskey, and people were yeah, it's just interesting, to see sort of what would you want your political candidate to choose as a comfort food? There's a right answer and a wrong answer for people.
I think we need the
It's just
mystery back,
interesting.
right?
Yes,
The
exactly.
mystery back of Miles Davis.
Yeah, there's no mystery. I now know what everybody's comfort food is. It's a vegan cupcake. Yes, exactly.
Really run out of comments. I felt America Wake Up, and the comment about how what you first interpreted when you first read the article, and that is that, I feel like the structure is the content. I so got sucked into this. I did. I was wanting nostalgia, nice little definitional essay, this is where we're going. Then bam, at the end, cool was, culture is, and then the call to action. So I really feel like you guys brought that out, and I appreciate that, because I really was going down.
Just echoing again what you said about being authentic and not, we don't want a manufactured politician, but give us something that's real. So I liked that.
I like the message of authenticity too, and somebody said something about not being attuned to ourselves, and then kind of fusing a couple of comments, but we're woke to our social circumstances, but we're not even attuned, or kids today aren't even attuned to themselves. So there's kind of a tension of opposites there. And somebody mentioned the call to action, and when I was reading the last part, it's kind of ironic that there's not really a call to action. There's sort of a call to action. You're expecting a call to action, but there's not really one. And that last line is tailored to seem to me, and maybe it's my interpretation, as being somewhat negative and nebulous.
We haven't forgotten.
So, one, I'm really irritated by all these people talking about how old David Brooks is. Because he's not that old, thank you.
57.
Right, 57 is young.
Thank you.
But I also think it's kind of funny, ironic funny, that James Dean has always been put forth as an icon of cool. Jimi Hendrix has always been put forth as an icon of cool. Miles Davis also just trademarked cool. Billie Holiday, a friend of the guy who coined cool, by the way, that I didn't know, but I read because Wikipedia rules the world. And so my thought was, who is he to call out this generation of manufactured cool when a lot of cool has always been manufactured and capitalized upon by the capitalists or whatever.
Yeah.
So that was all brought up again, and the irony and all those kinds of things, and made me curious about, I feel as a Generation Xer that what we think of as cool is what the 60s, the people who were really there in the 60s labeled as cool. So we inherited their idea of cool and never really figured it out for ourselves. So.
All right, let's give ourselves a hand.